What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Front Yard Fantasy Mock Draft Review. I am Simon, and I'm going to be running through this mock draft with us. This was a mock draft we did live on stream with our listeners on July 26th, 2021. It is a half PPR SuperFlex redraft mock. We are getting into redraft season, baby. So you're going to be seeing more and more of these redrafts on stream as opposed to the dynasties we've been doing most of the past 6 months. There were a couple teams I wanted to talk about today, some that stood out, some that fell a little short, and some that took very different strategies but ended up with good-looking teams. The first team I wanted to talk about was Jordan Vanx. Jordan did a very good job of putting together a full, solid roster, even though he waited a bit on that second running back. He took some players I'm not as high on, but I'm not going to let my personal bias judge some of these decisions. But just to give a rundown of his team, his strengths are obviously at the quarterback position. He's got Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers as his 1-2 punch. There are very few teams that can even consider or even in consideration for having a better quarterback duo. Methodical with Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson. And then JR with Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford are the other ones I would put in that conversation. But Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers is definitely up there at the top. The wide receiver core he was able to put together doesn't have a lot of the names we've been talking about this offseason. There's some more under the radar names, if you want to call them that. If anyone could even say Julio Jones and Tyler Lockett are under the radar. But more so, they're just not the A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hills, Mike Evans, the names that we're used to seeing up there right now. Julio Jones was just traded to the Tennessee Titans, so there's some uncertainty there. And then Tyler Lockett's been left at the wayside for DK Metcalf in some formats. So I actually love the wide receiver core Jordan put together. Then for as long as he waited on running back, I'm very happy with Melvin Gordon in there. The one pick I would really take back if I was him was Trey Sermon. I just think there's not enough to go off of in that San Francisco backfield to make a call to draft any of these guys in the 7th round when there's still receivers on the board like Debo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, Laviska Shenault, OBJ. I would have much rathered him taking one of those receivers in the 7th round than Trey Sermon right there. Melvin Gordon is a perfectly fine RB2 to start the year with. No issues with that. The other team I wanted to discuss, we brought up momentarily, was JR1616's team. This is one of my favorite teams from the entire draft. Draft started out quarterback, running back. So you know he's solid at those positions. Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery. But where this draft picks up steam, where this really differentiated itself, was he went tight end in round 5, Mark Andrews, and then starting in round 6, he took 4 consecutive wide receivers. No wide receiver taken until round 6, but the value he got on these guys is unbelievable. There is some risk with each one of them, though. Adam Thielen, he's not done yet, and he didn't show signs that he's out of the picture. Justin Jefferson is likely the one there, and we are going to see some touchdown regression from Adam Thielen, but is that enough to push him down to the 6th round? I don't think so. T. Higgins is also being a bit forgotten in that Cincinnati offense with the addition of Jamar Chase. But T. Higgins is a top-tier wide receiver, and he's going to continue to be targeted. It can't all go to Jamar Chase, and I don't think T. Higgins is the odd man out in that offense. Cortland Sutton is a little bit riskier with Drew Lock behind center and the addition of Jerry Jeudy, who I expect to take a step forward. But Cortland Sutton's been nothing but impressive when he's been playing, even with Drew Lock at center. So I love this pick in the 8th round. And then Antonio Brown, there's a chance he's second in targets on that Tampa Bay team. All of these wide receivers that he drafted are far from guarantees, but they are excellent values and perfect for a team that doesn't draft their first receiver until the 6th round. And then that being said, I love the flyer on Cam Newton in the 12th round. He's looked good at camp so far from what we've seen. And when Cam's fully healthy, he's unstoppable for fantasy. Those two teams were the two I wanted to talk about most, but there was one thing I wanted to point out. Shout out to Methodical, Matt McCarthy. He brought it up on stream, and I thought it was very interesting. So 3 people that drafted on stream were Matt drafting out of the 9 spot, Josh drafting out of the 8 spot, and John Luke drafting out of the 1 spot. We always talk draft strategy during these mock drafts, and the 3 of these teams on air all drafted quarterback very, very differently. Josh punted quarterback, didn't take his first quarterback until the 7th round. Matt went early quarterback for both QBs. He started 1-2 quarterback. And JL started the draft off 101 with Patrick Mahomes, the top quarterback, and then on the second quarterback. All three of these teams turned out looking really nicely. Bit of a disclaimer, this draft was before the Carson Wentz news, so I was a little bit happier with JL's team then. So obviously things have changed since then, but the general strategy still plays out. If you look at Josh's team, he was able to create positional advantage at the running back position with Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler. Only two other teams even have a comparable RB1, RB2 situation. At wide receiver, he's got Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, and OBJ as his top three receivers. That's one of the best wide receiver cores in the league. And then he's got Darren Waller, who is of that top three tier of Kelsey, Kittle, Waller. That makes that differentiator at the tight end position. You would think with all of this going for his team, he'd be suffering at quarterback, but he's fine. He's got Tua, who there's split opinions about, but reports out of camp are excellent, and he should take a second-year leap. I don't know how big that leap will be, but he should move forward. Derek Carr, who is a perfectly fine QB2 for SuperFlex leagues. He's not going to go out there and win you the whole league, most likely, but he'll put up solid numbers. And then Sam Darnold has all the upside in the world on that Carolina offense. He's got the weapons, and he's out of Adam Gase's system. I love that pick. Those three quarterbacks should be totally fine for putting together the rest of the team. Matt went QB early, kind of like the two teams we talked about earlier, but he still threw together a solid team. The weakest point for him is probably his RB2. After DeAndre Swift, he's got Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Damian Harris, and Kenyon Drake, but no issues with throwing one of those four into your lineup each and every week and getting serviceable numbers from them. And then JL went with the balanced approach. Patrick Mahomes early and then waited, grabbed Justin Fields in the 6th round, Carson Wentz in the 8th. And the rest of his team is very balanced. None of his positional groups stand out as the best in the league, but they all are in that top 25, 30% of teams. And this should be a solid team to contend this season. Again, disclaimer, that's if Carson Wentz was still in. I imagine that'll hurt him quite a bit, but hopefully they can find someone on the waiver wire that might get some starting reps, or Justin Fields gets that start early. Guys, the main thing I wanted to point out with those three things is there's not one best way to draft. Even in like a super flex league or a tight end premium league, there are multiple paths to creating a good roster, a roster that you're going to leave the draft happy with. Whether that's 2 QBs early, completely punt QB like Josh did, grab one stud and then wait on the second player. You can create a serviceable and winning team with multiple different strategies. Let the draft fall to you, and don't pigeonhole yourself into an early QB strategy or a late QB strategy. Just take what's coming to you as the draft progresses, and there's still going to be a path to a great team. Okay, guys, that is it for today's mock draft review. Make sure you turn in each and every Monday for our mock drafts. That way, when the mock draft reviews come out, maybe you were a part of it. And every other weekday, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, where we're playing other games on stream. That's it for me today, guys. We'll see you next time.